All right, welcome everyone. Tonight we are going to take a look at uncovering the web design course updates. So there have been some pretty significant updates made to the web design Picasso course. My name is Linda Hahn and I am joined by Matt Arnold. I'm a PD specialist here with CodeHS, and Matt is a curriculum developer. He specifically is the curriculum developer that helped to create these updates. And so you'll have an opportunity, if you have any questions, to speak to him directly. A couple of logistical things before we get started. Just note at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a Q&A option, and this is where you're actually going to be able to ask your questions. So just drop your questions in there, and you'll be able to see questions, any answers to questions that have already been asked. The one thing that I have to say is make sure that you're asking not just to panelists, but to everyone. That way, everyone can see your question and everyone can see the answer to that question as well. So again, at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see open, answered, and dismissed questions. Any open questions will be in that second tab there, and you'll be able to see that as well. So I'm really excited to dive into some of these updates. If you have yet to create a CodeHS account, I want to go ahead and drop some links in the chat here. Let me just drop this in. If you don't already have a CodeHS account, hopefully you'll be able to see this. I'm going to hit everyone. You can go to codehs.com/sign up. I'm going to go ahead and create a live link as well for you. This way you'll be able to get a free teacher account. Make sure that you choose the teacher pathway on that sign up page. You'll be able to see ways that you can sign up and get verified as a teacher, so you get access to all of the curriculum and everything we are going to be covering tonight. Now, if you have been teaching web design with CodeHS for a while, you have probably already noticed a lot of updates just to the coding environment. And so the coding environment we refer to as the IDE, Independent Development Environment. And so this is, there's some significant changes that I've actually made creating websites really pretty streamlined in CodeHS. So we wanted to first dive into those changes and talk a little bit through how that impacts maybe the way that your students run their code or update their code and so on. The first thing that you're going to notice is on that right-hand side, there is now a URL bar. So this is for your HTML programs. You're going to be able to navigate all of those pages using this URL bar. And so you'll notice there is a forward and back button, so you can navigate between the different pages. There's also a refresh. That's the best way, again, for your students to run their code. And you can still, with this little icon here, open that website in a new tab. And again, this used to be a simple link. Now you can see it's an icon, and students can open their website on a new tab so that they can view it in full screen. So a couple of really cool options there, ways that are pretty intuitive because these match maybe what you would see on a web browser, and it's easier for students to navigate that way. Some other updates you're going to notice, you're going to see on the left-hand side, there is now a gear. The gear has always been there, but there are some cool updates that have been added. Specifically, you're going to be able to change the preferences. Students can actually change their preferences. They can, of course, change the font size of both their HTML code and also the output. They're also going to be able to navigate these different options for how they want their IDE to be set up. So at times, students may want the left-hand panel to kind of be hidden. Sometimes maybe students want to work on just the code, so they will hide the output. So that's another option. Or they want to see a full screen of the output. And of course, you can do that by having your students open it up in a new tab, but you also have the option to be able to just see the output within that IDE window, which is really nice. So these are just some general updates to the IDE. And by the way, you navigate to that by going to the bottom left corner of your screen, and you're going to see me do that in just a moment, but I just wanted to point that out, that it is at the bottom left corner of the screen, and students can opt to, again, go into full screen code mode or full screen output mode, or toggle between these different options. Now for all programs, but specifically, this is really helpful for web design programs, you're going to see that file tabs make it kind of seamless for students to switch between different files. They've always had the option to view the files on the left-hand nav bar, but now they also have the option to add in what's called file tabs. And these tabs kind of allow them to kind of determine which tabs they're working on. They can go back and forth very quickly within their IDE. It kind of mimics the way that maybe you would see on a web browser. You might see different tabs for different pages that are open. So the other option that they have is when they click this X, they can X out of a particular file tab, and they can, just focus on the ones that they're currently working on. But this is a really great way also for them to be able to run those specific tabs and not have to worry about linking to one tab to be able to run it. So a couple of really cool updates there. And again, you have the option for the code running environment to show the URL tab or the traditional way. Lastly, we added a couple of different options. I know we were able to add files, so you could add an HTML file, you could add a CSS file, you could add some additional pages. However, until recently, students weren't able to maybe upload their own images. They have that option now. They can go to the new file menu, go to upload, and they can upload their own images into the website to be able to utilize that for their projects, which is really cool. So students and teachers, again, you can also upload zip files. So if they're working on a different coding environment, or if they're bringing in some code from maybe a previous project that they've worked on, they can do so also by uploading a full zip file. They can also create folders for their web design projects. So this will, again, keep things organized and also help them to kind of navigate those different files from that left-hand nav bar. So now we're going to dive into the actual web design course updates. And I'm going to toggle back and forth a little bit between the slides and also showing you those updates live in a Sandbox program here in just a moment. But first and foremost, if you're new to the web design course, just so everyone's on the same page, our web design course is actually several different courses, but this is a project-based course that teaches students how to use HTML and CSS. And students will finish the course again with some tangible experience in designing web pages and full websites. So I'm going to go ahead and pop into the chat here the full overview for the web design course. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at the Picasso version of the course. So there are no prerequisites for the web design course. This is an important distinction. So a lot of the times when I was a teacher, I would use the web design course. It's kind of a gateway course to take, have my students take other courses like a JavaScript course, a Python course. And it was great because they loved designing websites. So in our 6th through 12th pathway, we recommend web design as early as middle school. There's other pathways as well, cybersecurity, mobile apps, and web development. So depending on what your school is looking to emphasize, these are some suggested pathways as well, starting with web design, maybe moving into cybersecurity, or web design into mobile apps, or web design into web development. So as I said before, there's several different courses within our umbrella of web design. We have a one-year high school course. That's our Picasso course that you'll learn about today. We have the Monet course that is 1 semester. And we have a Matisse course that is a year-long middle school course. But today we'll focus mainly on the updates made to the Picasso course. So if you would like to take a look at the Picasso course, again, I'm throwing it into the chat. This is just going to be the overview for the Picasso course. Again, the overview looks like this. You'll see the syllabus, and you'll also be able to explore that course. So you'll be able to see all of those modules that I'm referencing today. So feel free to hop over to that link and explore and take a look at the overview for the Picasso course. So I'm going to come over here and let's go ahead and take a look at the modules. So the Picasso version of the course is the largest of those courses. So Picasso is broken down into 9 distinct modules and then a final culminating project at the end. The first module, we're going to talk through, the basics of the internet and those intricacies of how web pages, reach your browser and how they are called up basically by a URL. So students will be able to really understand the basics of what web pages are. In our second and third module, this is where students are really going to dive deep into the basics of HTML and CSS. So they'll first learn HTML, so that's their skeleton of, how the house is built. And then they dive into CSS. This would be how a house gets decorated and customized to their specific liking or their specific style. So they're going to combine those two elements to create those simple web pages. And again, those have the style and the structure combined. So there's some updates to these two particular modules. And if you've already started teaching the web design course, you're going to notice that some of the formatting tags have changed. Let me move that out of the way here. So our main formatting tags, if you remember the first couple of assignments, we really dug deeply into things like the I tag and the B tag. So for example, our previous version of HTML included these I tags to italicize text or the B tags for bolding text. So today, most web projects avoid the use of the B tag, and instead they favor the use of the CSS font weight property to size text. But in addition to that, you're going to see something like the strong tag, and that's used to give some meaning to the content on the page. So it literally means that that text within the strong tag is of strong importance of some kind. And so modern web browsers, again, are going to show you this text as bolded. However, some of the older browsers, it may have been underlined. It just really is a matter of the way that you look at the wording. And in this case, we're talking about this is strongly emphasized text, right? And the same thing is true for the EM tag. So this is a tag to emphasize the text and stress the content. And again, most modern web browsers are going to use this as the italicized version of that text. And so we can still use the I tag to italicize text too. We can still use the B tag to bold text, but these are some newer versions of those tags, and you'll see those within the course. The block quote tag specifies a section that is, quoted maybe from another source. And so usually web browsers will indent a block quote. And I'll show you an example of this in just a moment. But the Docs tab has been updated to include all of these tags. So again, you'll notice that when you navigate out, you'll see that in the Docs tab. So to see more, you can go to this CodeHS tutorial, and this is just really diving deep into the difference between the strong versus the bold and the EM or emphasis tag versus the I tag. So you'll take a look at that. But let's hop over to my sandbox real quick. And you're going to notice again, on the left-hand side, and let me zoom in a little bit just to make it a little better. There we go. All right. You're going to notice on my browser, on the left-hand side, you can see all of those tags, or I'm sorry, all those tabs that are available. In this case, these are my pages, but these are my file tabs. So we'll be navigating through those together. At the bottom left corner, that's where I can change the layout. So if I wanted to get rid of that left panel, I could do that, output code, and so on. So just giving you a little overview there of the IDE. If I want to go ahead and show you the difference between bolded text, a emphasized text, or block quote, you can see here, this is what it looks like on a modern web browser. And so you can see I can navigate this by just simply hitting my refresh, and I'll be able to see the strong tag, the EM tag, and the block quote. Block quote, again, being indented, but I can always go to my style page. I can choose specifically block quote, and I can give it some sort of style. So maybe I just want to give it a color of red, and that way all of my block quotes are going to be red. There we go. Then I come over to my index, and we're going to take a look at some other outputs here in just a moment, but that was the main updates. Again, the other modules within that Picasso course include a project where students will create a homepage. And again, they're going to be using all of the principles that they learned in this basic HTML and CSS units. As we move into the advanced HTML and CSS units, you're going to notice some updates there as well. And so the biggest update is Semantic Tag Lessons. And so we'll dive into that in a moment, but you're also going to see some relative measures. You may have seen it in other documentation in the past, maybe on another source, but you're going to notice that there are also relative and absolute measures now added as units for things like margin, padding, maybe even text size. And the old Aesop's Fables activities have been replaced with a new worldwide foods activity. So students should see that if they're enrolled in the course. And so what do we mean by semantic tags? Well, first and foremost, you're going to notice that the span tag and the div tag, they haven't gone away, but really what semantic tags are, is there a way to be more specific about what these different portions of your code are? And so something important to note is that in HTML5, semantic tags were partly created based on div tags and span tags and classes used therein, but oftentimes they're being used by web designers to, kind of structure a web page. So in the HTML5 tags, you're going to notice that you have a main, a navigation tag, a section tag, a footer tag, that help to describe the structure of that content that's contained in there. And so since I've already kind of been using construction as an example here, I want to stay on that vein. One thing that you're going to notice is that div tags are similar to simply, building a house, putting up walls, but there's no specific sections. So if I've put up the walls, maybe, it's still very much in its rudimentary phase. Maybe all I see is the steel beams or something. So I don't know where the kitchen is going to go and where the living room is and where the bedrooms are located. So it's kind of like these semantic tags give more meaning to those div tags. And instead of saying, hey, these are rooms, I can say, this is the living room, this is the dining room, and so on. And so that's the way you want to look at these semantic tags. So let me give you an example here. I'm just going to uncomment this out. And you're going to notice that when I added these in, I added them in with the nav, section, main, and footer tags. And notice it really doesn't change the way that the output runs. What does change is, though, my ability to simply choose all of the tags within my website that are maybe labeled footer and give them a very specific style. So if I go back to my style tab, I can choose my footer tag, and I can say maybe I want all the font sizes for footer tags to be 8 pixels. So small, and again, there's my footer div now that has changed. But again, instead of choosing a div that I had to give a class to, I just simply chose the footer tag. All right, in terms of semantic tags, you're also going to see, this gives meaning to that specific division of the website. So it provides the web browser with better information about the page's content and layout of that specific web page. And so this is it helps search engines also to kind of get better data about the web page, create a better user experience, and improve the accessibility of that particular page. So again, the best way that I can describe it, the difference between div tags and those semantic tags, is that rooms in a house. So just think of it as like dividing it up in a more meaningful way rather than just having these more general rooms. You may see some of these additional tags, so things like header, we didn't get into it, but also articles. So if you're creating a web page that's going to be maybe more of a blog post or have articles within it, you would use article, and maybe an aside if there's some content on a sidebar as well. So we talked a little bit about those measurements or those units. And so the units of measurement have been updated too. They create, for instance, in the past, we may have just used pixels. In some, I believe in some of the exercises, you may have even seen percentage, but these, regardless of the size, an absolute measure is going to be whatever you input, regardless of the size of that particular web browser. So if I'm on a mobile app and you have designated that the H1 tags are all going to be 48 pixels, they're going to be 48 pixels no matter if I'm on a mobile app or a mobile web page, or if I'm on a web browser. And so with relative units, you're able to determine, now that perhaps I'm on maybe a different browser, or I simply want to make it relative to some other tag within my website, I have those units to be able to do that. So for instance, something like padding, if I wanted to have a padding for my footer that maybe is 12 pixels, but for the rest of my website, it is 2 times that, I can designate that with 2 EM. So let me go back to my sandbox and I'm going to show you what this looks like. So if I go over here to this last little point here, you're going to see that I have the ability to create a title, and you can see at first my title is just simply whatever the default font size is for a paragraph tag. You can see my title there. But if I wanted it to, maybe my level 2 titles are going to be twice as big, I simply have added a font size of 2 EM. And so if this font size is 12 pixels, this font size would now be 24 pixels. And so it's relative to the particular tag that I'm referencing. And so you can see that example there. And so with all of those skills, and students are going to create their very first web page. This is going to be an infographic, or they're going to tell a story. And so after that first HTML, CSS, and advanced HTML and CSS units, you're going to see a Bootstrap unit. And again, Bootstrap is an API. So it has ways that students can incorporate pretty much CSS that has been created into their website to make it dynamic. Something that has changed within that Bootstrap unit is that we have updated the boilerplate for Bootstrap. So it's really important to note, specifically if you have already created additional materials for your students, you may want to make sure to go back and take a look at the boilerplate in the Docs tab. We've also updated the Bootstrap classes throughout the module, and I'll show you a couple of examples of those. Also updated is the icons. The icons lesson used to utilize some various icons, but now you have the full library of the Bootstrap icons that are available to you. We've also removed the Jumbotron lesson, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Basically, just note that you can still recreate a Jumbotron. It just doesn't necessarily have its own lesson within our current web design course. So the first thing you want to do is I'm going to navigate out here. Let me just make sure I show my left panel. I can navigate to my Bootstrap lesson. And what I want to do is I want to take a look at the Docs tab. If you scroll down on your Docs tab on the right-hand side, at the bottom right, you're going to see Bootstrap Basics and Adding Bootstrap. So if I click on Adding Bootstrap, you're going to notice that the Bootstrap documentation now has additional lines on it. A couple of reasons for this. You may see that Bootstrap includes things like the JavaScript that are the scripts that are available through Bootstrap. You will also see the icons. So the icon CSS is also available. So again, all you would need to do is copy out this new boilerplate, and students would be able to utilize it right away. Let me go ahead and get rid of that left panel for just a moment so that I can show you my Bootstrap here. And I'm going to uncomment that out. And again, you're going to notice that my current output, whoops, let me go back here, says this is a Bootstrap page. And so you can see if I comment that back out, Bootstrap is no longer applied. So really important to note, again, that boilerplate is going to need to be changed, and students are going to be able to access it just like they've always been able to. They'll be able to access it right there in their Docs tab right here. Next, I'm going to comment this out just to make it a little bit easier to see. And I've got a couple of containers here, and I wanted to show you a couple things. And let me uncomment this out, this whole main section, so I can show you. So a couple updates here. You're going to see that first and foremost, there is a new icon library. So you can see I have created this alarm icon, and my width for some reason didn't take shape, but I can utilize my my style tag, my style sheet to be able to add additional style to my icons. But again, I here stands for idiomatic. So if you're thinking I means icon, I means icon, or I means italics, it's actually, we looked it up, it's called idiomatic. And then the class for this starts with BI for Bootstrap icon dash, and then whatever the icon name is, in this case, alarm. And so you can see here on the right-hand side, this is an icon. And you can see my cool little alarm there. Links look a little bit different, so a little modernized. You also see there are some new colors. So we have text muted. So you can see it's a little bit grayed out. Text primary, text success. These were previously with Bootstrap as well. Info text, I believe, is new. And then we have warning text in yellow, danger text in red. In addition, you're going to see some updates to the alignment. So this is really important to note. Previously, you may have seen that text would align right, center, and then left. And the left align has now been updated to be text start. And again, that's just being a little bit more descriptive. We're saying this is the start of the web page, or the beginning, or the left side, right? Center isn't changed, but text end, again, is going to be the equivalent of your previous right aligned text. Background colors, you can see also, just like the text colors, they have also been updated as well. Now, lastly, I'm going to take a look here at this section. This is my grid system. So let me go ahead and refresh this page. You're going to be able to see the grid system. What I want you to take special note of is the fact that I have columns, just as usual. I would say column small 12, column medium 5, and so on and so forth. But just know that column extra small has gone away. Column, the extra small, or the default of, being able to view it on a mobile page, is kind of the default at this point. And so extra small has kind of gone away as a designation. So you're just going to see something like column 12, and you can see over here on the right-hand side, it's 12, takes up a span of 12, but it does so also on the full page version of this website. So again, we talked a little bit about adding the new boilerplate. We talked a little bit about the Bootstrap icons. And again, you start with the class of BI and then whatever that tag is, or whatever that particular icon is. And then we have the updated classes. And again, the default version of this 5.1.3 changed some previously used classes in order to clarify some positioning and some default values. So you'll see things like page header has been removed. Like we said, column extra small has been removed. Thumbnails are now image dash thumbnail. And you have the navbar default is now navbar light. We have navbar fixed to top is just fixed top. So makes it a little bit easier to write your Bootstrap classes with these new updates in this new version. So you'll see that throughout the course. Now, Bootstrap has dropped that Jumbotron component. So you may have seen in previous lessons, you know, that the Jumbotron was kind of that big bolded section at the top. Students can still create a Jumbotron. They'll just use kind of a various utilities or a series of utilities. If you want to find out more, I'm just going to drop this into the chat and then you'll be able to see it. You can go to that Get Bootstrap. There's some documentation around some examples of how you can recreate a Jumbotron if you'd like to. Now, the last two modules of the Picasso course, students learn how to design user interfaces. So this is how theories of design thinking are used to create websites. And so the major update is that there is an empathy lesson and some new accessibility items within this module. And so I'm going to go back there for just a second. Web accessibility really helps to, you know, those that have varying needs to be able to access a website just like anyone could. And so, for example, students are now going to be able to complete exercises in the updated course to do things like update, you know, and improve keyboard navigation and screen reader output with their website design projects. And this is really important, again, for your students to really grasp as we want to make those websites available to all individuals. So this course will give students the opportunity to kind of identify and rectify any accessibility issues in their projects. So this could include things like, did they add alt text to their images? Is there color contrast? And is it good color contrast? Have they added, you know, descriptive web links to ensure that the person that's navigating the site knows exactly where they're going when they click the link? And, you know, these new learning opportunities are really going to help students to improve the experience for everyone on the site. So great addition. Now, if you have not used CodeHS to create a website, I will say our CodeHS.me sites are really unique. You can actually create a personal homepage. Students can create a personal homepage using the sandbox. And so by default, those CodeHS.me websites are available publicly, but again, as a teacher, you can determine whether you want those to be public or not. So there is a knowledge base article I just dropped into the chat for you if you have additional questions about how to create a free CodeHS.me site. Again, you can change the URL at any time just by going to your account settings. When you change your username, you actually change your CodeHS.me URL. If there are any questions or if you'd like to bring CodeHS to your school, definitely let us know. You can go to codehs.com/learn more so that you can get more information about bringing CodeHS to your school. And lastly, we have additional webinars. Actually, we have an entire back to school series, so we're super excited for you to join us tonight, but we have a webinar on planning to teach with the new Intro to Code JavaScript course. So web design isn't the only course that got a little bit of a facelift. You're going to see JavaScript has also changed. We're excited to roll out those changes to you. Getting started with CodeHS. If you're new to CodeHS, this would be an awesome webinar to attend. New at CodeHS Project Catalog. This is a new feature that we're rolling out as well, projects that you can incorporate into your classroom, and behind the scenes of a CodeHS lesson. So we'd love to hear more. There are additional PD opportunities and free webinars at that codehs.com free PD link that I popped into the chat. Additional resources, we have amazing communities at CodeHS, including a Facebook group that's very active, and we have teacher-led workshops coming up, so you're going to see some teacher trainer content, as well as if you have been with CodeHS for a while and you'd like to either earn a micro-credential or become a certified educator, we'd love to have you join our team of amazing educators. I'm going to drop all those links in the chat. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm just going to pause here and make sure we've addressed every question. If you have additional questions, let us know. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.